brand new YouTube channel, and I'm going to be naming myself Rabbit Cultures because that's my nickname on the internet. And I represent a small group on Facebook called Narcissist Ninjas, and I write a blog for that group, and it's at www.narcissistninjas.com. And it's all about becoming more empowered, more aware, and understanding the patterns of narcissistic abuse. Hopefully you already know these things and you know how to avoid people such as this. I wasn't blessed with that information, and I consider myself of the older generation, and I am spent my life educating others and educating myself, and yet this piece of the puzzle has slipped through my fingers. And it wasn't until a crisis a couple of years ago with what I believe was a narcissist that catapulted me into this deep vortex of finding out information about narcissism. And it has been an awakening. And when I realized there was already so much information out there, it's like, how did I miss it? How did I miss all my studying, all my books, all my websites, everything that I had been worked on? I can't understand how I missed this thing that had been controlling my life for many years, but came to a head when I had a crisis. And maybe sometime I'll get into that, but not right now. The channel will be focusing on how the masks of the narcissists eventually fall and come off. There is always a point when narcissists break down and show you their true characters. It's just the nature of the personality disorder, and it just depends on the certain situation, certain circumstances, how dangerous that unmasking might become. I focused in on this, the very first video on Chris Watts, because when I was going through my own crisis, at the very midst of my own turmoil and situation with a narcissist, and which I believe I came out of in saving my own life, the case of Chris Watts was out into the public. And I would see these images of Chris Watts and his wife, and I would get really confused because a lot of the mannerisms, a lot of the mental twists and turns were very much like the person I was involved with. I truly believe that if I had stayed with the person I was with, that I would be dead today. And I don't think, not sure though, because there were a couple of incidents where there was a physical altercation. But I believe in my particular case, the narcissist would have tried to push me towards harming myself, or perhaps set up a situation. So that's what it would have looked like. I truly believe that with every ounce of my being. So it set me, when I came out of it, it made me aware of how kind of close it was. Like, I always describe it as almost being run over by a bus. I repeat that over and over in my blogs, because that's exactly how it feels. Now, I'm not really great at, despite doing this YouTube thing, I'm not a great speaker. It's just not in my DNA. I love to write. And if you look at my blog, I kind of explain things a little bit in more detail with more clarity and more creativity, I guess. I'm going to give you some of the information here. And eventually, if it ever comes to a time where I can have a guest, that will be better so they can talk instead of me, because I'm not great at like public speaking, or it's just not one of those things that I'm great at. This is a text message from Chris Watts after the murders of his wife and his children. And it's, again, when I saw things like this into the public, you know, in the public eye, and I did a lot of research on the case, I realized that the mannerisms were so very much like the person I knew. And it was, we don't know. I mean, it is not, I cannot diagnose a person that's not in front of my face, or that is not in front of a doctor or whatever. However, you can look at patterns of behavior, and lying is a big part of narcissism. Chris Watts was able to lie so effortlessly. When they asked, is Shannon okay? People were starting to get panicked where she was. She wasn't the kind of person to vanish off in thin air. He simply says, she hasn't been around all day. It's very odd. Yeah, very odd indeed. Very odd, very odd. Just incredible when you think about the mask. And we've seen in the public eye, as things started to come out. This is a note that he sent to his girlfriend, just like the date was 7/30/18. It was just a very short time before the murders. As these things began to reveal themselves, and the pressure started to come on, we started to see cracks. We started to see him being backed into a corner and not being able to keep up the lie any longer, you know. And very, very strong these are similar patterns of all narcissists. When they come to a point where truth is being revealed about them, they definitely go into a spin and try to spin things to make them look like a victim. And what he did to me, which reminded me so much of my ex, was that right away, his first initial reaction to being found out about this affair he was having with his girlfriend, and the fact that something was askew, the stories weren't adding up, his first initial reaction was to blame Shannon right here, the person he murdered. He blamed her for his own fallacy, for his own murder. You know, like he said, oh, she murdered my kids. I had to kill her. My heart goes out to this lady, and I have a little bit of trouble looking at her picture at times, but I try to do it now and then. That's why I put it up there like this, because I think it's good for me as a person coming out of an abusive pattern. I think it's important to connect with those who have not made it. And it makes me really, really sad. She was so young, much younger than me, and seemed like a very sweet person. Now, there were some really kind of I label them as cuckoo people. They seem to come out of the woodwork and try to find something. People do that. And people who try to reach for evidence of the victim being a tarnished person are usually wrapped up in some kind of narcissism themselves. They're either in their own narcissistic pattern, narcissists themselves, or I've come to understand they are victims of it in some aspect in their life. And they then scramble to make sense of everything. So this person, this innocent person, has to be evil because they cannot accept the evil component of the monstrous narcissist. It's like denial. And in some ways, I can understand people like that, but of course, because of my own denial factors over the years, but I've never been able to kind of, I guess, support someone who's done that level of evil atrocity. So it's baffling. The whole situation is very baffling, and narcissism is so twisty and turny and convoluted. And if the people that are involved in it, if sometimes they are never able to come out of it, either alive, or if they do come out of it, they're mentally screwed for a very long time. And it takes a lot of hard work, a lot of effort, and a lot of healing. It's definitely not easy to recover, but the alternative ain't so hot. This is how I imagine. I couldn't put a picture of the real kids up here. I just couldn't do it. Celeste and Bella. These are not the real Celeste and Bella. I could not put their image up on the screen because it was just too horrible. And when I think of those kids and I read about that case, my vision, I try to vision something just like this so that I can hold on to the ability to be discerning and read through the case and try to understand the case and try to understand narcissism. My big passion in life right now is to understand narcissism to a deep degree so that I can help other people avoid the path, or if they are already on the path, turn left instead of right. It doesn't matter where you are in the journey, you can still get off. I spoke to, on my page, I spoke to a woman in her 80s who has been with her narcissist for 50 years and has been silenced for 50 years. And she has learned to adapt. She has learned to submit to his narcissism, and it's damn sad, but I still tell her the same thing. Whether you have one day left on earth or 10 years or 20 years or 100 years, you can still get out of the abusive cycle. It doesn't matter where you are. We don't know how many days she might have more days on the earth than I do. So I always try to encourage anyone I run into in this situation to get out, find a way out. At the very least, educate yourself about how it affects the psyche, and do what you can to change your circumstances. Never easy. Now, Chris Watt's mother got into a little snit, and there's been a lot of analysis done on his mother as well as on him, and you can read different articles. Oh, as I get through, I should probably put up some articles, and actually I'm going to try to do that, post some articles that are that are created by some psychologists and some people in the field, so that you can get a kind of look at her personality. She comes across as wanting to be the victim, and though she doesn't come out and say, I get the feeling that she blames Shannon Watts for the whole situation, and she tries to sugarcoat it. She tries to not say it directly, but she tries to bring out negative things about Shannon's personality, saying she was controlling, she was this, she was that. Listen, being controlling and maybe being, a little snippy at times or whatever is not a reason to be murdered and have your kids murdered. To me, the lady's in such deep denial herself that it's very difficult to listen to her or to watch her. And it begs the question, since narcissism is born out of trauma, what is her story? What is her relationship to the situation? There were some things came out that she was very crass towards Shannon. And I sense that just from my own personal interpretation, we don't know, but she seemed to be very jealous of the relationship that her son had with this young lady. And she seemed very catty and did not want to, Shanann had some very unique and structured ways about her, and she liked things a certain way. And this lady would continually overstep her boundaries and not respect Shanann and not respect her boundaries. And she seemed, to me, it was red flags all the way. She says in her book, and she quickly wrote a book after Chris was put in jail. She says, I am not writing this book to ask for sympathy. I'm writing it because there are always three sides to every story, hers, his, and the truth. Victim, maybe? Maybe I cannot know the truth any more than all the millions of strangers worldwide who seem to think they do. But I know some things. I know our family, I know our son, or maybe I don't. And I wish to gain understanding of him and his actions through his process. And to a degree, I know the story of the marriage that led us all here. I want to tell people about these things I know at least. And you can understand. I mean, don't get me wrong. I can imagine to have your son involved with one of the most horrific murders in America, the boy next door. You can understand her passion for wanting to protect her family, protect her child. However, lady, something's up, something's amiss. I don't get the Victim Act, and I don't like that a person to come out this. To me, one of the biggest characteristics about narcissism is their need to present a perfect image, a pure image. That is the big thing. And this facade that I see, that Cindy Watts is trying to pervade, what's my word? I lost my word. Push. I would say she's trying to push an agenda or push a narrative, push it's an image. It's all about image. And to be honest, she says she knows the story of the marriage that led us all here. Well, the public has actually come to understand some of the story that she was involved with as well. Of course, nobody can know ins and outs of some public figure that we have, or a person that we have never met. But there are patterns of behavior. There are signs that cannot be overlooked, even though people tend to go with words over actions. And she showed some pretty nasty actions a few months prior to Shannon's death. It's a very difficult case, and it's so sad. But it shows the length that narcissists will go to protect their image, and eventually the truth comes out. And what that phrase, you know, the truth always comes out. I believe that it comes out, and it's just up to three sides to every story. I think there's only one side, to be honest. The truth is the only side. The truth is the only side. And people are getting wiser, and people are smartening up and are not tolerating narcissists anymore and narcissistic abuse. And I have learned that narcissism is created out of trauma, childhood trauma. And the only way we can stop this cycle is from preventing that trauma to begin with. When a narcissist feels their control is slipping, it's your most dangerous point of the relationship, whether it's a family situation or husband, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever. And remember, make no mistake about it, narcissists come in all shapes, sizes, sexes, creeds, whatever. They're everywhere. And learning to pick up the signs before something dangerous happens is what you need to do. And of course, preventing narcissism in our children is also the biggest step that we can do. Stop abusing your kids. If you cannot take care of your kids for whatever reason, don't stay with it. Like, get some help. Maybe the child is better off somewhere else, you know. Maybe it's better not to have kids at all. That was my choice because of things in my past. I chose not to have kids because I didn't want to pass on this cycle. I knew there was something kind of wrong. I never really identified it till later in life, but I always knew that there was a pattern in my life that was not healthy. And I have done most of my life my best to break it, but it's taken years. So why put kids through that? Why put kids through that and have them come out either victims of narcissistic abuse or narcissists themselves? We're done. We're sick of it. It's over. So the mask will fall. Just make sure that you're not near the person when it does it, if that is at all possible. Try to be far away